Hello, welcome back. We are doing another video in Spider-Man. I'm in the dark suit right now. And I want to talk a little bit about white privilege. So this was recently drawn to my attention. Somebody had put out this video, which they thought was one of the best metaphors for, you know, white privilege and how it works. And what it is like people at an outing, and it was some sort of race. They said, okay, we're going to have a race. Here's a $100 bill. This will be given to whoever wins the race. But first, we're going to add a few things to it. So, and the man starts to list several things that are, I presume, different privileges. Well, I don't presume. They are privileges that people had, like advantages people had growing up. And for every advantages, the people who were racing could take 2 steps forward. So by the end, all the black people were at the starting line, and it was predominantly white people who had gotten advantages, and, you know, the final few appeared to be, like, rich white people. Now, what I found so fascinating about this video is that all the advantages they listed, not a single one of them actually applied to me. I'm a white guy. I was raised in middle America in a middle-income family. So I actually had it pretty good at home, yet I don't have any of the advantages that supposedly white privilege conveys on people. Now, there are two of the questions I remember in particular that I think are pretty, I wouldn't say important, but they're the ones that stuck out in my head. So first off, this was the final question asked, but did you go to college, get a free ride to college, so you didn't have to pay for it, free ride scholarship to college, on a non-athletic scholarship, which, of course, I did not get that. I did not get a non-athletic scholarship and didn't get a free ride to college. So so it was kind of an interesting that it just struck me as interesting that they specified non-athletic scholarship. And the second question, and this is the one that really, really struck me and made me think, wait a second, was did you have both of your parents in your house growing up? Now, it was very deliberately phrased that way, and that's why I found it so interesting, because normally I'd say, well, I had 2 parents in the household growing up, which is true. But, you know, my actual birth parents were divorced when I was at a young age, and I spent a few years without a father figure in my house, but I soon got a stepfather and soon got a stepmother. But, you know, it made me kind of realize, wait, maybe, you know, all this stuff that I kind of took with a grain of sand would be considered advantageous. Or it would be a disadvantage to have those things in your life. And it's kind of hard to define, but it kind of struck me as like, oh, I didn't realize I had it so bad. I just coped with what I had and moved on with my life. And I think that's the attitude to approach all your problems, is to kind of say, okay, I have this problem. Now what am I going to do about it? And yeah, you can be sad, you can have your emotions, but at the end of the day, you're ultimately going to have to move forward, whether you like it or not. And interesting part about the race is that some of the black people who were at the end of the line, I believe, actually were able to run faster than some of the white people. Just because they had that skill, they had that drive, and presumably they wanted it more. So, you know, there are disadvantages, I think, in every situation. We all have problems, we all have disadvantages. But ultimately, what we do with the disadvantages we have is how we live our lives. So, the reason I want to do this in Spider-Man is very, very simple, and it goes back to one of the early Spider-Man in the 1970s. I was actually going to look up the number, or what number it was, but I forgot to. You can find it in, let's see, Great Responsibility, I believe, is the title of the Epic Collection, where this one is. But Kurt Connors, who's the Lizard, had turned back into the Lizard, and Spider-Man had found him, and through a great deal of sacrifice, managed to reunite him with his family and turn him back into a normal person and save the day, essentially like Spider-Man. But during this time, Spider-Man's going through a lot in his personal life, and he feels, you know, kind of miserable, kind of like a failure, like, nothing ever goes right for me, nothing ever goes my way. And so at the end of the story, he's kind of going like, you know, just exhausted from all the stuff that's happening to him. And then it shows the Connors family who's sitting there talking, and it's like, yeah, Spider-Man is so great and so awesome. He, you know, it must be great to be him, not have any problems, you know, or anything. Life must be really perfect for him. And I think that's really the metaphor for privilege. I mean, we look at Spider-Man, he seems to have every advantage, you know, pretty much through luck. You know, as, you know, he was bitten by a radioactive spider, was lucky enough not to die by being bitten by a radioactive spider, developed all these powers, and ultimately used it to, you know, uses it to help other people. But, you know, it's not easy for him. As it shows in this game, you know, he has trouble paying his rent, has trouble doing a lot of stuff, you know, and has a lot of very relatable problems going through life. And it's, you know, he's got his tumultuous personal life. He's got all this stuff that he has to deal with as a young person, as, you know, just normal life. And he's very relatable for that very reason, is that a lot of people look at it and say, you know, I've had problems like this, and, you know, I can relate to how he has to deal with it. But from the outside, he's like the great Spider-Man. He is so, you know, such a great superhero, and you think, oh, he can't have any problems at all. And indeed, if he used his abilities for, shall we say, things that aren't right, well, why put a face on it like that? If he committed crimes with his spider abilities, he would make a fortune. And I think Black Cat is a good example of this. She, you know, almost casually in this game, and it's kind of set up for the DLC, but she steals about $50 million worth of stuff, of loot, of gear, and has Spider-Man pursue her the entire time and stuff like that. And it's, you know, and it kind of makes you go back and say, well, if he wasn't as principled as he was, yeah, he could easily steal tons of stuff, make lots of money, and just be like the bestest ever. But he doesn't. And because of that, a lot in his life suffers. He doesn't have like a few $100s offhand to pay for rent. But, you know, his, you know, ex, who I never really liked that much anyway, I'll admit that with Black Cat, casually steals $50 million and lets him reclaim all the stuff that she stole, just so she can get her suit back. That's a slight spoiler in the game, but yeah, it's a side mission anyway. So, you know, that's kind of my entire point, that Spider-Man deliberately puts himself at a disadvantage to honor his own morals and his upbringing and his code. And you know what? He's all the better for it. And, you know, just looking at him, he seems like he has the entire world, you know, at his beck and call. He could do anything. But he doesn't, because he's Spider-Man. And yeah, so we look at people and say, oh, they've got it so good, but we never quite realize that, hey, they might have problems that we never even dreamed of. And that's, I think, how you should approach privilege. Not that, oh, somebody has something better than I do. That never ends well for anybody. But that, you know, I don't know what's going on with them. They could have a miserable life, and I shouldn't judge them harshly because of that. So anyway, that's my quick take on the whole, you know, white privilege thing, and why I think Spider-Man is actually a good metaphor for white privilege. So I also, in case you didn't notice, reenacted a famous moment in Spider-Man comics right at the start of this video. I will give kudos.
Can't
I
forget
don't
about
actually
that
have...
shady rooftop box you recalled about.
I actually don't have any money or actual chocolate bars or anything to send you, but I will give you a good thumbs up if you figure out exactly what famous Spider-Man moment I reenacted in this video. Anyway, let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Bye.